Africa. Keep watching AAU TV, the voice of higher education in Africa.
Hello and greetings from the Association of African Universities. Thank you for joining us for today's edition of the Hello Africa Morning Show. We are coming to you live from the headquarters of the Association of African Universities. The show is proudly brought to you by Vena Mineral Water, Share the Love, and Be Good Drinks. Today, I'll be doing this with
Philemon Edwards.
My name is Naomi. Following us on our social media handles at Association of African Universities on Facebook and YouTube, AETV Official on Instagram, and AETV_universities on X. Philemon, can you give us an insight to what will be happening on the show, what will be happening for today?
Definitely. So today on Top African News, we are talking about sustainable development issues. We also talk about China and Africa's university partnership to boost education.
Okay.
And then we'll be talking about Mpox as well. And then we'll look at some migration issues in the EU. And then finally, we'll talk about health issues related to South Africa.
Okay. And there was an interesting trend last week where Ethiopia celebrated their new year, ushering them into 2017. When the whole world is in 2024.
Yeah.
Someone actually asked an interesting question as to whether they are yet to experience COVID or they have already experienced COVID. But I'll bring you more details. We'll bring you more details about that story and other stories as well. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
This program is proudly sponsored by Vena Mineral Water, Share the Love, and Be Good Drinks.
Thank you for sticking with us to our top African news story today at the QS Africa Forum 2024, held in Accra, Ghana from September 9th to 10th. Global education leaders convened to explore how integrating entrepreneurship, future skills, and AI technology into higher education can empower Africans' youth and drive sustainable development across the continent. Now, the AU's Director of Research and Programs, Professor Frederick Atuama, emphasized the critical role of multiple stakeholders, that is governments, private sector, civil society, and end users in shaping higher education policies and agendas to achieving these goals.
The forum emphasized the critical role of universities in preparing students with the entrepreneurial skills and technology necessary to address Africans' developmental challenges. Key contributors including the Association of African Universities (AAU), Obro Global, the Brazilian Association for International Education, and Ashesi University, underscored the need for universities to be at the forefront of economic and social progress through interdisciplinary collaboration and policy engagement. Professor Ato Ama, Director of Research and Programs at the AAU, emphasized the necessity of involving multiple stakeholders such as governments, civil society, and the private sector in higher education policy dialogues to foster sustainable development. He also highlighted the AAU's efforts in enhancing student mobility across Africa and supporting research collaborations through networks like AFRID. Dr. Jose Celso from the Brazilian Association for International Education discussed Brazil's approach to public education, which includes robust financial support systems for students and significant investments in research, particularly in food and protein exports. He highlighted Brazil's successful increase in public universities and suggested that these models could inspire African institutions. solutions. Dr. Patrick Jima Awa, president of Ashaisi University, emphasized the importance of creating an ecosystem that supports innovation and entrepreneurship within universities. He shared how Ashaisi University collaborates with other institutions and industries to help students turn their ideas into marketable solutions.
To our next story, in a landmark event held in Beijing on September 6, 2024, the Association of African Universities Secretary General Professor Olushola Oyewole represented the African higher education sector at the China-Africa Consortium of Universities Exchange Mechanism. This occasion marked the signing of a memorandum of understanding for a partnership between 50 African universities and their Chinese counterparts.
Professor Olusola Oyewole emphasized the potential of this partnership to transform the educational landscape by leveraging technology and fostering cultural exchange. Professor Oyewole expressed optimism about the future of this partnership, stating that it represents a significant step towards strengthening educational ties and promoting mutual growth and development in the higher education sector. The AAU is committed to ensuring that this collaboration yields tangible benefits for both students, faculty, and the broader community.
And to the next story, concerning development, a 6-week-old infant has been reported as the youngest known case of mpox, contracting the virus at just 2 weeks old. The report by BBC Africa has highlighted the vulnerability of newborns to infectious diseases and the need for stringent public health measures. The mpox vaccines have also been made available for emergency use in DR Congo, but reports say that storing and distributing them have proven complex process.
The infant, who exhibited typical mpox symptoms such as a rash, fever, and swollen lymph nodes, likely contracted the virus through close contact with an infected individual. This case has drawn significant attention to the ways in which mpox can spread, particularly in environments where overcrowding and close contact are common. DR Congo has recorded 18,000 suspected cases and over 600 deaths. Health workers operating at the epicenter of the outbreak in eastern DRC told the BBC they are desperately waiting for the vaccines to reach them. Mpox, formerly known as monkeypox, spreads through direct contact with infectious sores, scabs, or body fluids, as well as respiratory droplets during prolonged face-to-face contact. The baby receives supportive care, which is the primary treatment for mpox, focusing on symptom management and preventing secondary infections. In severe cases, antiviral medications may be considered. As the global community continues to grapple with the spread of mpox, this case serves as a stark reminder of the virus's reach and the critical importance of protecting our most vulnerable populations. Public health officials urge continued vigilance and adherence to preventive measures to curb the spread of this infectious disease.
And on to the next story. Unauthorized migration to the European Union has significantly decreased in the first 8 months of 2024, despite increasing political rhetoric, anti-immigration sentiments, and recent far-right gains in local elections across Europe. Data UN's International Organization for Migration and the EU's Frontex agency revealed.
Data from the UN's International Organization for Migration, IOM, and the EU's Frontex agency revealed a sharp decline in unauthorized crossings into the EU, with approximately 115,000 migrants entering through Mediterranean and Atlantic routes so far this year, a significant drop from 176,252 arrivals during the same period in 2023. The reduction is largely attributed to the EU-backed crackdowns in Tunisia and Libya, though these measures have led to severe consequences for migrants stranded in deserts. However, the Canary Islands, situated near Africa, have seen a more than doubling of arrivals, with over 25,500 migrants, primarily from Mali, Senegal, and other West African nations, landing as of August 31. The dangerous Atlantic route has claimed many lives, with bodies of migrants discovered as far as the Caribbean, and Brazil. While overall irregular migration across the EU's southern borders dropped by 35%, the Canary Islands experienced a surge in migrant arrivals from West Africa, highlighting the complex dynamics of migration routes amid heightened European political debates. Despite the anti-immigration sentiment in Europe, experts highlighted the continent's need for immigrant workers to sustain economic growth amid an aging population and labor shortages.
The Phila Health Train, a lifeline for South Africa's remote communities, continues its mission for providing free medical care, making a recent stop in Tembisa, a township east of Johannesburg. The train has become a beacon of hope for many who struggle to access healthcare services.
The Phila train, run by the Transcend Foundation, has grown significantly since its inception in 1994. Originally starting as an eye clinic, the train now addresses a range of healthcare needs, particularly for those in underdeserved areas around Pretoria and Johannesburg. Each train spends weeks in different locations, bringing medical professionals, managers, and support staff directly to the people. Despite the vital services it provides, the Phila train is not a cure-all for South Africans' healthcare challenges. Public health expert Alex van der Heever notes that while the healthcare budget and public sector employment have increased since 1994, the public health system still struggles under the weight of demand, leaving many South Africans dependent on initiatives like the Phila.
Don't go anywhere. We'll come back with some more stories on our news portal review. We'll be right back.
Are you a researcher or an innovator making a difference in Africa and Europe? The SIA Project invites you to share your success story and join a movement dedicated to sharing best practices, bridging knowledge gaps, inspiring others, fostering collaboration. Share your story now and be recognized, celebrated, connected with global network of researchers and innovators. For more information and to submit your story,
This program is proudly sponsored by Venom Mineral Water, Share the Love, and Bigo Drinks.
Thank you for staying with us. Now to our news portal review on a story cited on University World News. African countries are suffering significant economic losses from climate extremes, with GDP reductions of 2 to 5% and up to 9% of their budgets diverted for disaster responses. At a recent conference in Abidjan, experts highlighted the need for improved early warning systems and investments in climate research. Côte d'Ivoire's Prime Minister called for better meteorological expertise and advanced forecasting tools, while UN Climate Change Executive Secretary Simon Steele emphasized the global interconnectedness of climate solutions. The World Meteorological Organization advocates for prioritizing investments in meteorological services and the early warnings for all initiative to enhance resilience. UNECA Deputy Executive Secretary Hanan Mossi and climate activists stressed that Africa's current infrastructure gaps and lack of specialists hinder effective climate adaptation, underscoring the need for increased collaboration and innovative solutions to tackle these pressing challenges. Philemon, what do you make of this story?
Well, I can't help but agree when it comes to climate research.
Yeah.
I'll make a case of Ghana where usually, for example, people often make issues or funny comments with the Ghana Meteorological Services, especially on GTV when they do weather updates and forecasts, and they say that probably in the week you should expect rain, you should expect this, you should expect that, and it doesn't happen. I mean, to be fair to them, these things sometimes happen because of what you have seen. They will predict this, but it won't happen. But this research story you've just read says that there need to be more, what do you call it, investment in that field of meteorology, which is a major issue. Because when I look at a lot of African countries and the kind of things that plague us, I believe that if we have advanced information because of technology, we'll be able to do a lot more to help ourselves.
Yeah.
I watch CNN a lot, and you get to see in the US that when there's going to be a tsunami, when there's going to be a hurricane, people living around those areas are warned ahead of time.
Yeah.
And they're supposed to leave the place. So
you cannot say that for Africa.
You can't do that for Africa.
Floods that happen.
Yeah, especially for floods, which is the major thing that plagues us. I mean, when it comes to natural disasters, there's quite a list.
Yeah.
But the least on the list for us is flood, which is what affects us mostly in Africa. So if we are not even going to be able to predict how to manage rains, which eventually will cause the flooding, you can imagine what will happen when it comes to things like wildfires, volcanic eruptions, and things of that nature, up to like tsunamis. Fortunately, we don't have those things happening here often, but we should be able to check the basic ones, which is very important.
So I'm currently working on a research focusing on how climate action advocacy is sort of like changing the perceptions and behaviors of people. I think that for Africa, for our part of the world, it's like people are now getting to see, or they are now being able to see the repercussions of their actions towards like climate. The UN Climate Change Executive Secretary mentioned that the global connectedness, he emphasized the global interconnectedness of the climate solutions, and it boils down to advocacy. People are now understanding the repercussions of their actions in terms of not even doing what they need to do, like deforestation. Of course, if deforestation is happening in our various countries, obviously when there's floods, there will be nowhere for these water bodies to even go. So they'll move all the way through the forest and then come to our various homes. But then if we are able to understand the repercussions of our actions towards how our actions affect climate in the end, we'll be able to tell that these things that we are doing are not affecting only us, but they are also going to affect the other parts of the world in totality. And I like the fact that they stress on the need to invest in meteorological services, because there's been times when we watch the news and then we are told that today is going to rain or it's going to pour, and then we realize that it's sunny all through, and you are like, what went wrong? But you watch other international news platforms and they tell you that for these parts of the world, like say the coastal areas of the world, like West Africa, the other parts like Southern Africa, they are telling us that there's going to be like rain, and it actually rains all throughout. So then you now question the issue of whether we have made investments in our meteorological services comes in, because if the Westerners are able to give us precise predictions, how then or why are we not able to make such predictions?
So again, it comes back to the investment situation, because let me use CNN again as an example. CNN is able to tell you even the air quality in various cities in the world. I've not seen local channels in Africa give updates on air quality. Maybe I stand to be corrected, but if you are investing in these fields, you'll be able to give the air quality of the various cities around the world, which is key. You know, because if I'm traveling to, let's say, Nigeria, and I don't know the air quality, maybe for the sake of some health reasons or health conditions that I have, I won't be able to protect myself. There are cases where people step out of planes in certain airports and suddenly they have a bloody nose. All of these things comes down to things of this nature. So we need to invest more into some of these things. And let me make a case of Ghana, which is quite sad when it comes to some of these things. It goes even beyond the meteorological services. Because, for example, what we call galamsey or illegal mining in Ghana now, people are going into the forest reserves. Eventually, if the reserves are wiped out, what is going to be the consequence of it? It's going to be a huge effect on Ghana's economy when it comes to agriculture. So it's a big deal.
And it's not even just about agriculture. You know, we get our pipe water from these natural rivers and stuff. So imagine what would happen to us in the next 2 to 3 years. I'm not even going to say 5 years, because we are already experiencing water shortages in the cities and all of that. So Yeah.
It's a big deal.
It's a very big
the
deal.
Ghana Water Company has already said that if we are not able to manage this water issue with the river bodies, with the illegal mining, we are going to have problems very soon, because the machines that they have are currently struggling to purify the water that is passing through the system.
The pollution is very huge, so it will take like a very long filtration process for these machines to.
It's a big deal. So this story is right on point. So we need to do a lot more and see what we can do to help the African continent.
What do you have for us?
In South Africa, the ongoing calls for decolonization in universities reveal deep-rooted issues beyond mere policy changes. Despite efforts to transform higher education and expand access for marginalized students, coloniality, persistent matters of power and knowledge from colonial times continues to undermine true progress. While transformation efforts often focus on curriculum reform, they frequently overlook the lived experiences and identities of Black students who face institutional racism and alienation. Decolonization aims to challenge Eurocentric knowledge and promote epistemological pluralism, recognizing diverse perspectives and methodologies. Storytelling is highlighted as a crucial tool for this process, offering marginalized voices a platform and helping all students understand each other's experiences. By fostering spaces where students can share their stories, universities can move toward genuine transformation, becoming pluriversal spaces that embrace and integrate multiple forms of knowledge and perspectives. This approach aligns with the idea that universities should not just enact decolonization, but embody it as a fundamental part of their identity.
Yeah, I actually love this story so much because we have seen how our university systems are still, quote unquote, being colonized.
Yeah.
Because we are using curricula from the Europeans. Even our research is usually not like research references are usually not like African centered or African based. We now have to sort of like take from the Europeans and then now sort of contextualize it, which would definitely take a lot of time. But I see what South Africa is doing, and I'm always happy to see that South Africa is almost always taking the initiatives for other African countries to emulate.
Yeah. I mean, I like the storytelling part of this issue.
Yeah.
And the reason is because I think we've discussed this 2 weeks ago on the same show where I was talking with Isabella about how Africans have to learn to tell their own stories.
Yeah.
Nobody can tell our story better than we can.
Of course.
So with the storytelling part, I love it, and I pray and hope that our universities in Africa will be able to make good use of this and give the students the opportunities even to be able to express themselves, what they have learned growing up, because these things will change the narrative. Because when you are in the learning environment and you are going through the process of telling the stories of your own experiences, and then you are shaped or guided by the lecturers who are teaching you, you by the time you're out of school, the concept of being an African is well imbibed in you. So you know how to live when you go out there, and you will know how to represent the African continent wherever you are. So these things are quite key. So I think that it's a thing that the university should be able to get themselves into and promote it strongly, regardless of what course any student is studying in school. Storytelling must be a part of the educational system in Africa. Yeah. Do you have any more on this, please?
No, I think we've discussed enough.
Yeah.
Decolonization should happen in our various universities, especially in everything that we do in terms of our policies, our curricula, even our way of pedagogy.
Yeah.
Our way of teaching.
Yeah.
And our way of research. Yeah. So kudos to South Africa for taking up the initiative to do it. Yeah. Now to our next story, also from the University World News. On September 10, a devastating flood hit Borno State in Nigeria, displacing around 200,000 people and leading to the suspension of academic activities at the University of Maiduguri, Unimide, and Borno State University. Now, access to these institutions have been severely impacted, with staff and students facing significant hardship. Unimite reported that many affected individuals are struggling to find shelter and support. The flood increased by torrential rains and the release of water from Alau Dam has caused extensive damage, reminiscent of a similar disaster from 30 years ago. President Bola Tinubu has directed Vice President Kashim Shettima to visit the affected areas, and the state government has set up relief camps for those stranded. Experts highlight the need for improved urban planning and disaster prevention strategies to mitigate such crises in the future. This happened. Same thing happened about 30 years ago. And why is it now coming back? Why is it coming back again? What could have gone wrong? What probably, I don't know, I don't want to put blames on anyone, but definitely there are some people, some key stakeholders involved in this disaster happening again. Yes, it's a natural disaster, but like I was saying, it happened like 30 years ago. Some happened 30 years ago and we are witnessing it again. What could have triggered that? And probably like what we discussed earlier with the first story in terms of climate action, is it that the people have reverted to their old ways of doing things and it is making the places flooded? Or I would like to know your opinion on the story.
Okay, so my first take on this is that I think that Nigeria hasn't learned. If this happened 30 years ago, what were the measures that were taken after that incident to make sure that there will not be a repetition? Chances are that even if some measures were taken after 2, 3, 4, 5 years, when there was no flood, everybody went to sleep and thought that, okay, we are fine. Then let's get back to business as usual.
Exactly.
And then 30 years after, when I read a story on the website, the interesting thing for me is when that thing happened in 1994, it was in the month of September. Again, this is the month of September
and it's happening.
And it has happened again. Clearly, something has gone wrong. I don't want to be superstitious about the timing, but I just believe that something has gone wrong. Whatever was done back then to make sure things were sorted out have not been maintained. And it's a thing. I'm saying this because Africa has a poor maintenance culture when it comes to
just about saying that.
Processes, policies, anything you can think of. We are unable to make things sustainable anytime we begin them. So these are some of the challenges, because if you go through the story from the side, you just know that this was caused by rains.
Yes.
Even the one that happened 30 years ago, there was some sort of a dam issue related to it.
This also has a dam issue.
But it just tells you that clearly whoever is responsible, the body authorities responsible, have gone to sleep. So anyway, our heart goes out to the people in Borno State and we wish them well. But I think that clearly whoever is responsible for the body responsible for this must wake up and then do something about it. I mentioned already in the first story that when it comes to natural disasters, floods are the lowest. So if at this time, in this century in Africa, we are unable to manage floods, think about what can happen if there are other things, you know, when you go high on the rankings of natural disasters. I mean, this is bad. When it happened 30 years ago, over 400,000 people were involved. This is 200,000 people. You can say that it's less people now, but still, 200,000 people, I mean, these are people's families, livelihoods gone, farms gone, a lot of things gone. These people are going to start life all over again. Think about the economic consequences. I mean, and
now the government would now have to make some form of investment into providing shelter and basic livelihood for the people for some time. When that investment could have been put there to
something else. Or even prevent
the
this.
situation.
And I'm sure if you were going to prevent this, you would have spent less compared to having to take care of the damage after it has been it has happened. Because when you take a look at the picture, like you can see the area that has been covered with water, the number of houses. I can't even begin to count even businesses, people's farms, livestock. I mean, it is huge. It is huge. So I think that something, I hope that something will be done, and then reasonably there will be a sustainable plan so that we won't be talking about this in the next 13 years
Yeah.
again.
Yeah.
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 Okay, so we'll move on to the next story, and this is from the BBC, and this is a sad one, and it's about Rebecca Cheptegei. So Olympic marathon runner Rebecca Cheptegei, who was tragically set on fire by her former boyfriend Dixon Ndiema, has been laid to rest in her home district of Buko, Uganda. Ndiema attacked Cheptegei outside her home in Kenya, leading to her death from severe burns. The brutal nature of the attack shocked many and highlighted the severe issue of gender-based violence in the region. At a funeral attended by fellow athletes and dignitaries, Cheptegei was honored with military salutes due to her service in the Ugandan Armed Forces. Very sad news.
Very sad news.
Here.
I don't want to say that I was a bit relieved to hear that the boyfriend also died, but it's actually very sad that there was even the start of the whole violence causing the boyfriend to put her or set her on fire.
Yeah.
I mean, it's such an inhumane act.
Yeah.
Why would you want to set someone on fire? Like, especially a lover, for that matter, not just anyone.
Yeah.
This is a mother, a breadwinner for the family.
Yeah.
Even a national, I'll call her a national treasure because she was an Olympian.
Yeah.
It's sad.
This is a sad one.
It's sad.
Over the weekend, I was watching CNN, and then the story was being aired there, and then one of the athletes who also was at the Olympics was talking about what she chanced on just when the incident happened. And there was a picture of a tree in front of Rebecca's home, where apparently when the incident happened, according to this lady, she had come out of the house and was trying to find a way to put the fire out from her body, and so she was rubbing herself against a tree. And then the grass that was on the ground, so you could see that the grass on the ground was bent. And the tree, some parts of it. So it just tells you the degree of injury that she was in. And for this to have happened like this, it's bad. I wish that this guy hadn't died and would have been put to justice.
Yeah.
I mean, like you said, it's somehow
a relief, but
in a certain sense a relief. But even though that's not the right thing to want to go with at the moment, but it would have been better to see him used as an example with regards to the law. Yeah. So I just pray and hope that Rebecca's family, whoever they are, they would. I know it's a sad situation, but God will comfort them, and then they'll put themselves together. I saw pictures of her 2 daughters, and I mean, it's just sad. They're just too young to. They're just too young to lose their mother. And may God rest her soul.
And I read on so many platforms that she is actually the breadwinner.
Yeah. For
her family, and I'm like, so now how are they going to cope?
Exactly.
We hope that some bodies or private people or persons would come together.
Or even the Ugandan government.
Yeah, would even do something to support.
Because like you said, she's a national asset. She's a national asset. She's a treasure to the Ugandan government. All right.
And apparently it wasn't the first time that...
This is not the first time.
This is not
That's
the
the
first
sad
time.
part.
Yes.
So I don't know what the Kenyan authorities are going to be doing about it, because it's about the 4th story I've read in recent times.
Why would you even think of putting someone or setting someone on
violence against women in Kenya is a big deal. It's a big deal. So I really think that something must be done about it. Right.
Despite Brazil's ongoing commitment to fostering African student education through scholarships and diplomatic initiatives, subtle yet pervasive societal racism continues to impact Afro-Brazilian academics, according to Cambel Manga, a professor of anthropology at the University of Sao Paulo, speaking at the regional pre-congress of the diaspora in Salvador, Brazil. Munanga highlighted that while Afro-Brazilians are increasingly present in academia due to affirmative action policies, they remain underrepresented. Munanga, who has lived in Brazil for 50 years, noted that racial discrimination in Brazil often goes unacknowledged, with many denying its existence despite clear disparities in representation. we are struggling. We are still struggling to sort of like blend into the Westerness.
Yeah.
And I see that a lot of people are also, I think this morning I was having a talk with my brother and we're discussing how a lot of Africans are moving to Europe and other parts of the world for education and all of that. And this actually is one of the things that we spoke about, how looking at how some of these Westerners think that we are migrating. Yes, Africans are migrating to Europe and other parts of the world for education, but they also have it in mind that it is sort of like a strategy for Africans to relocate to their country and sort of look for greener pastures. So maybe this discrimination is stemming from the fact that some of these Brazilians are thinking that Africans will now, if you're schooling there and you now want to live there long term, looking at this professor who's lived there for 50 years, it means a job that a typical Brazilian would have taken up, it is now an African who is doing that job.
Yeah.
And so maybe that is where this discrimination is sort of like stemming from.
Yeah.
The fact that now they would have to be sharing their resources and whatnot with us.
Other foreigners.
Yeah.
I mean, first of all, it's interesting for me to note that there's racism in Brazil, because Brazilians themselves there are many Brazilians who are blacks.
Yes.
So I'm wondering where this is coming from. Unless, of course, this is targeted towards just foreigners who have penetrated their country. But let's just hope that these things, even though they are, at the moment they look like they are unacknowledged, hopefully authorities will rise up and then work around it, because the world is now a global village, and then some of these things are what helps the world go around, because other people who come from their countries and they will be able to help, because this man who's lived there for 50 years certainly has contributed a lot to the Brazilian
he definitely has
field. So I mean, there's no way they can also say that it's not supposed to be a thing that should be encouraged. I mean, it can be managed, but something must be done about it. If indeed they're thinking that other nationals are taking their jobs, that will also mean that they also have to live up to the billing and then educate themselves to be able to take the positions that are available in their country.
You're right.
Yeah.
Well, we'll go for a quick commercial break. When we come back, we'll delve into our trend of the week and some sports. We'll be right back.
This program is proudly sponsored by Venom Mineral Water, Share the Love, and Bigo Drinks.
Hello, Africa. Keep watching AAU TV, the voice of higher education in Africa.
Are you a researcher or an innovator making a difference in Africa and Europe? The SIA project invites you to share your success story and join a movement dedicated to sharing best practices, bridging knowledge gaps, inspiring others, fostering collaboration. Share your story now and be recognized, celebrated, connected with global network of researchers and innovators. For more information and to submit your story,
Hello Africa, keep watching AAU TV.
This program is proudly sponsored by Venom Mineral Water, Share the Love, and Bigo Drinks.
Thank you for sticking with us. It still is a Hello Africa morning show, and we have been discussing some top African news stories, and we've also done some news portal review. And now to some trend of the week. On September 11, 2024, Ethiopia celebrated the Ethiopian New Year in Kutatash, marking the start of the year 2017 in the Ethiopian calendar. Unlike the Gregorian calendar, the Ethiopian New Year falls on September 11 or 12 during a leap year and signifies the end of the rainy season. This year, festivities highlighted Ethiopia's unique 13-month calendar, with each of the 12 months containing 30 days and the 13th month, Pagumen, having 5 or 6 days. Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed used the occasion to call for national unity and collaboration to address Ethiopia's challenges, emphasizing the opportunity to heal past wounds and build a prosperous future. Religious leaders also urged Ethiopians to resolve conflicts through dialogue and reconciliation. Celebrations were observed globally, with significant events held at Ethiopian embassies in Kenya, India, Italy, Turkey, and other countries. Philemon. So Ethiopians are now in 2017. I remember last year, a colleague of mine went to Ethiopia, and she said, it will interest you to note that Ethiopians are in 2016. And I was like, how? And then she gave me these details that they use the 13-month calendar and all of that. But I'm still thinking, how is it 2017? Even if they use the 13-month calendar, because apparently the 13-month only has 5 or 6 days when it's like leap year.
Yeah.
So how has it really impacted the years?
I think that Ethiopia has their own set of rules, even though they are part of the world. I think that they are trying to live by themselves. I mean, it's interesting why they are in 2017 at this time.
Yeah, when
the world is in 2024. So it makes it interesting, and but it's a culture thing for them, because I think Ethiopia is one of the countries that has not been
it was never colonized. Yeah.
So as a result of that, their culture is coming straight from wherever they have come from, and that is probably influencing what they are doing.
Yeah.
And obviously, it tells you that they have a mind of their own, regardless of whatever is happening in the rest of the world. And this thing just keeps reminding me of the comment you made. Indeed, they are yet to experience COVID-19. But I mean, I'm sure that's just by the way.
Yeah.
But it's interesting to note that I don't know if they think for themselves that maybe where the rest of the world has advanced to, they are using that as a guide to bring themselves to that place. I really cannot say, but it is only interesting to note that this is what they do. But I feel more like it's a culture thing for them than any other thing.
It is. Yeah. And you can also tell, even with the way of dressing, the way they teach, they have their own characters. Yeah. They have their own characters. They have their own way of teaching and all of that. And you could see that it is sort of like a way, like you said, the culture is a way to preserve their culture without allowing any influence from the West or even other parts of the continent. So it's actually very, very beautiful thing to see.
Yeah. Well, that's good to note. And we'll end our discussion with a trend of the week on the Ethiopian story. And we'll go right into sports. And we'll begin with some contract issues. Mauricio Pochettino, the former Chelsea manager, Tottenham manager, has been hired by the United States men's national team, and he's expected to lead them to the next World Cup in 2026, which is will be hosted by the US, Canada, and Mexico. And the 52-year-old is set to be earning around $6 million annually in his new role. He's excited to have signed for the United States men's team because he's quite an experienced manager, even though he hasn't got a lot of trophies. But he's quite a good manager. And for the United States to have gotten him to manage their men's team towards the World Cup just tells you the intention they have towards the World Cup. United States are not bad at soccer, actually. They call it soccer. They are not bad at it. But for the fact that they have brought on Mauricio Pochettino, it just tells you what they are looking for in the next World Cup.
Let's just hope that their goal will be achieved.
Hopefully.
Maybe they want to host and win.
I honestly don't know if that can happen, but I mean, let's see. Because football lately has changed a lot. So anything is possible. The motivation is in the fact that they are the host. So anything is possible.
I would love that an African country wins the World Cup.
Well, that's a conversation.
At least the next World Cup, an African country should win, because
Well,
it's usually going to like the West. I'm like,
it would be nice.
It would be very nice.
It would be nice, really.
And it would also prove a point that we've learnt our lessons over the years.
I agree with you.
And we have grown. We have now gained more experience. We have looked at the statistics. We've looked at the trends, and we've been able to build upon the experience that we already have.
I completely agree with you. My only challenge with African football is that even though we are learning, a lot of our players are doing well when they go to the other leagues. They do well in their clubs. But when they come together as a country and they're playing, for example, in the AFCON, the AFCON is one of the questions. There's a lot of questions. The AFCON is one of the competitions that has low goals. Many of the matches they don't have high scoring matches.
And even the patronage, like how many people go to these stadiums to watch these games?
So it's the reason I'm impressed with the last one that happened in Cote d'Ivoire in January. It was quite impressive, fantastic facility, well organized, and it was a good one. So I think that we are beginning to see some good things when it comes to, honestly, in terms of organization of the AFCON, we do well. But it's in the competition when we go outside AFCON, because you're meeting bigger teams, better teams, better facilities in their countries, better coaches. And so you're competing against teams of this nature. You have Spain, you have Italy, you have Belgium, you have France, you have Brazil. I mean, name them. So it's quite difficult to say that you're going to match these teams boot for boot and then win the World Cup. It's not that it's not doable. It is doable. But, you know, African teams will do well in one game. They go to the next game and they are a flop, or it looks as if they are now learning to play football. And these are some of the challenges. And it also comes back to where, as African teams, we need to develop like the players from the grassroots so that they can go into the assets that we want them to be for our national team. So there's a lot to do when it comes to African football. Yes. So to the next story, interestingly, on an African player, Nicholas Jackson, the Chelsea striker, he has extended his contract by 2 more years. So he will be at Chelsea up to 2033.
Wow.
And he's only 23 years old. I think that he's having a good time. He started the season well. He scored 4 goals already in his in this campaign that he has started for this season. So it's looking good for him. Sorry, 2 goals rather in 4 appearances. Not 4. Yeah, two goals in 4 appearances. Last season when he started with Chelsea, he didn't do that bad. And so for him to sign an extension means that the club is pleased with him and they want him to be there for a long time. So when he signed the contract, he said he's really happy and then he hopes to stay at the club for a long period. So we wish Nicholas Jackson well.
We wish him all the best.
And to another player, Memphis Depay, who is of Ghanaian descent, he was out of contracts after the last season when he played with Atletico Madrid.
I've not heard his name in a long time.
In a long while, that's because he has not been with a club. But interestingly, the Brazilian club Corinthians have signed in for up to 2026. And so we hope that he will do well in Brazil. He's had quite a good football career, but in the last year or 2, he's not done really great. So Atletico Madrid just had to let him go. They were not really impressed with keeping him. The year before he was with Barcelona, he was not so impressive as well. So, and he's been struggling with injuries too. So hopefully playing in Brazil, which doesn't come with a lot of pressure like in La Liga and in the Premiership, he'll probably do better because he would have less pressure.
Hopefully.
Still on contracts, Mikel Arteta, the Arsenal manager, has also signed a long-term contract to remain at the club. His work is evident since he took over the club in 2019, especially after bringing Arsenal into the arena of title contenders again. So Arteta is going to be at the club for a while. We are not sure yet how long the contract is, but obviously he's doing a good job because before his tenure, Arsenal has struggled to be in the top 4 in the English Premiership. And for 2 seasons continuously, they have been able to come to the point where they are contending for the title against Manchester City. So possibly this year, something can happen. But yesterday, they won their North London derby against Tottenham.
Yes.
And then last week, unfortunately, they drew, which is a game I think they should not have lost, but and they should have drawn. But unfortunately, that's what happened. But that's football for you.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens with him.
I was surprised we've not spoken about Manchester United.
Oh, they are in the train when we get. They are in the trends for the English Premiership game, so we'll definitely talk about them. Even though sometimes when they win, I'm not too excited.
The disappointing game they played.
And that's why I'm sad, because I'm a Liverpool fan.
Such a disappointing game.
So let's go straight into the Premiership, and sadly Liverpool lost 1-0 at home to Nottingham Forest on Saturday. And so this brings the 100% win record of the season to an end. And the captain Van Dijk slammed the team, saying that this defeat was unacceptable. This is the first defeat for Slots as a new manager for Liverpool. And it's a sad one because they are traveling today to Italy to begin the Champions League campaign. It would have been nice to win a game and then go into the Champions League, but it is what it is. I just hope
that it doesn't affect
there's a high chance it will affect their confidence, but we hope that they will be able to live up to it. It's the reason the teams have psychologists, so hopefully they should be able to live up to the villain in Milan. and I was heartbroken because that's my club, but I mean, it's just what it is.
Manchester United did not disappoint me.
Manchester United did great.
I had a good weekend.
They won their game against Southampton 3-0. And it was good to see that Marcus Rashford scored finally.
That's my boy.
Because he's been under pressure from last season. And he played really well. So if he's going to keep this form going, I think that he'll be able to help the team achieve what they're supposed to achieve.
Chelsea as well.
Chelsea also won. And so they're also doing fine. It's only Liverpool that gave me a broken heart. I hope that I'll get out of it.
Sorry about that.
And so let's get into La Liga. And Real Madrid won their game on Saturday against Real Sociedad, with Vinicius and Mbappe taking turns at 2 penalties respectively and scoring all of them. And in that game, it was interesting. Something happened when Vinicius scored his goal. He seemed to have misbehave a little bit in his celebration, and I think for a player of his caliber and playing at a club like Real Madrid, he should be able to put himself together, because the let me say the stars or old players of Madrid, the Galacticos, are not happy with him, because he seemed to sometimes
Very relaxed.
Not necessarily relaxed. He you know, for the player of a caliber that he is, he's an influential player at Real Madrid. So sometimes the way he behaves when it comes to his emotions on the pitch, I mean, it's he needs to mature and grow and represent the club that he is playing for. So these are some of the things that the old folks are talking about. He should be able to learn from other players like Bellingham, who's even younger than him. Players like Mbappe, who handle pressure really well. Last season when Madrid and Barcelona played and he scored, I mean, he did well in that game. Madrid won. When he was being substituted, I mean, the way and manner in which he was walking off the pitch, and even he was being booed by Barcelona fans and he was trying to retaliate with certain gestures, his coach had to pull him off the pitch to get him to go and sit in the dugout. I mean, it's not the best.
Emotional intelligence.
He needs to develop his emotional intelligence. That's the word. So that as a player who represents a club of this magnitude, he will behave aside, because a lot of he's likely to win the Ballon d'Or. So for a player of this magnitude, I mean, you need to grow up and then be responsible and own the brand that you represent. And Barcelona also won their game away from home by 4-1 against Girona. And the wonder kid Lamine Yamal scored a brace in that game. The 70-year-old is tipped to be the next Messi of world football. And Barcelona currently sits on top of the table with 15 points.
Comfortably. You should have added
they're in the comfortable league. I hope they don't get off the top of the table. But kudos to Lamine Yamal. He scored 2 goals in that. And he's only 17 years old. It just tells you how bright his future is. I just hope and pray that he is not prone to injury. So far, he's proven in his record from last season into this season that he's not really an injury-prone player. So if he stays fit, I'm sure that he's going to be a player to contend with at any level, because when he plays for his country as well, he does the magic for them, and he's able to make things happen.
I think Manchester City also played a game.
Oh yes, Manchester City also
won
their game.
Because I watched because of this guy, this Norwegian player,
Haaland.
Erling Haaland.
Well, I'm surprised that you're interested in Manchester City because as a Manchester United fan,
I'm a Manchester United fan.
You are supposed not to be happy when Manchester City wins.
I'm a diehard fan of Manchester United, but I watch Manchester City because I like Haaland. One, I like their coach, and I also like Erling Haaland's game.
Well,
I like how he's able to even command.
I appreciate your honesty as a Manchester United fan talking about Manchester City in this way.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, so we'll move on to the Italian League Serie A, where Napoli also sits on top of the table with 9 points after winning 4-0 against Cagliari away from home. And Romelu Lukaku played his first game, and thankfully he scored in his first game. So congratulations to Napoli and then Lukaku as well. We hope that he will keep this form also going. Juventus were also held to a draw, and this is their second goalless draw. 2 weeks ago they drew 0-0, and this week they did same. I don't know what's going on, but hopefully they're able to find their form so they're able to keep scoring. Because
it was one of the big teams at some point.
They still are a big team. They when you talk about Italian football, Juventus cannot be ignored.
So I'm actually surprised that they have not had any goals since they started.
Yes, I mean, so I just hope that it's only the beginning of the season. They have played 4 games so far. There's about over 30 games to go, but 34 games left. I just hope that they find their form earlier than better if they really want to contend.
I am usually looking at you starting very well so that you don't lose like your confidence on the pitch.
It's important. It is important to start well.
Because once you are losing, if you've lost about 2 consecutive games, I don't know what energy you would want to go into the third one.
Exactly.
It could be like a boost for you to want to do better. It could also bring your spirit down when you would end up not performing.
That's what a loss and a draw can do. So it's important that they pick themselves up after playing 2 goalless draws. That means that they are not scoring goals. That's a problem. So that should be checked. And AC Milan won their game by 4 goals against Venezia, and then Inter Milan also struggled to draw against Monza, and they played a 1-1 draw game. And that's interesting. And finally, in the Diamond League, Tibogo unfortunately lost his last race in the 200 meters. You know, he's won since the Olympics and he's been winning and winning. But Bednarek this time beats him in the 200-meter race.
You need to know when to stop.
Yes.
Sometimes you need to know when to stop so that the glory does not.
Exactly. But it's a good thing for Bednarek because every time Tibogo is winning, he's either coming in second or third. That means that he has done his homework. Because the week before in Zurich, Tibogo won. He won. And then this week, Bednarek won that
Talk
race.
About not being complacent.
Exactly. So that's all for our sports segments on Hello Africa this week.
Thank you so much, Philemon, and thank you too for tuning in. We have been coming to you live from the headquarters of the Association of African Universities here in Accra. Don't forget, you can join in the discussion, or you can share your comments if you have any questions. You can do that via our social media platforms at Association of African Universities on Facebook and YouTube, AETV Official on Instagram, and AETV_universities on X. The show is proudly brought to you by Vena Mineral Water, Share the Lab, and Bigo Drinks. We have been coming to you live, and don't forget to tune in next week. Have a blessed week. My name is Naomi, and I have been doing this with
Philemon Edwards.
Enjoy the rest of our programs.
This program is proudly sponsored by Vena Mineral Water, Share the Love, and Bigo Drinks.